Hello, listeners, and welcome to the Tyrantcast. My name is Mitch, and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today, I present you with the 20th episode of a podcast-style, primarily audio, discussion topic-centric video series, and for this episode, it's no more, no less than your established cast of characters. So, Sam, how are you, and what have you been up to lately?
Mitch, my tongue is tired from licking envelopes to send out Black Crusade prizes.
Is that what kids are calling it nowadays?
I think that's what they call it, licking envelopes in the back of the movie theater. But, yeah, no, I'm good, man. I actually have not yet sealed any envelopes. I got to go pick up the Alt Art Chaplain Mavros tomorrow morning from the printer, and then I will start stuffing those prize envelopes. So, Black Crusade is wrapped up. The final went live on your channel a few days ago from when we recorded this, and I got my recap up, so all that's left to do is get these prizes in the mail this weekend, probably, and yeah, it's kind of been nice to take a little break from administrative and judge duties. So, how have you been lately?
Well, I'm actually doing great. I finished the latest Pokemon Safari in record time. As I'm sure you well know, they introduced shinies to the game, so shiny Gyarados, shiny Magikarp, they were both 1% encounter rate, and I managed to find and capture both of those in less than 24 hours. And then in the latest competitive event, the Mega Gyarados event, I was actually skilled and lucky enough to place a 44th out of 38,500 entrants. So I managed to very comfortably secure my Gyarados as well as a Mega Speed Up and a Raise Max level. So honestly, I could hardly be doing any better.
Well, I don't know what the hell any of that means. I don't think I was referring to your, children's mobile games when I was asking you how you were doing. I was talking about Conquest.
Oh, Conquest. Well, so far as conquests go, I guess since you ask, I do have a date coming up this weekend, and I'll probably end up live streaming, maybe live tweeting the event, but, because it hasn't happened yet, our listeners will have to wait until next episode to hear about my dating life.
Don't think I was talking about that kind of conquest. I meant the LCG variety.
Oh, that Warhammer thing. Well, funny you mention it, because not so good, Sam. God, in the past couple of weeks, I've probably scheduled 10 or 12 different projects, and I've had like 7 or 8 of those, not exaggerating, people had to cancel last minute, or Octagon was introducing technical difficulties, so it just seems like a shitstorm of all kinds of badness. So I've been trying to focus my efforts on wrapping up some video series and projects that I was doing before I got really deep into the podcast, like the Warlord-centric community spotlights and the dramatized readings of Planetfall packs.
Oh, you gonna finish those up?
Yes. So they've all actually been recorded, but since they're not very popular, I'm just kind of like waiting until probably the least good video publication days to release those into the world.
Well, shame on the people, because see, I don't read those. I just wait for I wait for to get your version on iTunes, and then I listen to them. So
right.
I'm behind on my Sakhalem and Traxxas Sector fiction because of that. So.
Yeah, and let me tell you, man, that end is just harrowing. It's a piece of just pure art. I hear Hollywood is going to be adapting it into like a movie. So.
Well, we could use a 40K movie. Maybe we talked about this last time with Brian, but I did see Event Horizon a couple weeks ago for the first time.
I think maybe we did.
Yeah. Anyway, to anyone who missed last episode or didn't remember we talked about that, go watch Event Horizon. It's on Netflix now, and that is as close as we're going to get to a 40K movie. And I know there's some stupid easy for me to say, Ultramarines animated film. That does not count because that is garbage, and my, Nintendo 64 has better graphics. So, yeah, go see this. It's like when humanity discovers the warp for the first time, essentially. So.
Yeah, and well, I guess speaking of the Nintendo 64, it was, I think, the 20th year anniversary recently for the N64, so
It just makes me feel old.
Yes, but, I guess there is a world there outside of Conquest that I've slowly been dipping my toes into, but Sam, let's retreat to our safe place. Today, it should be a fun little episode. It's probably going to be a fair bit shorter than some of our others, I say, prior to recording what may well set the record for longest podcast, who knows? But the World Championships for 2016 are coming up. The event dates have been announced. So it's November 2nd and 3rd of this year, and by the time this episode goes live, all the tickets will have probably been sold, so I kind of botched it in regard to making a public service announcement here. But
Well, you did have something on, you put a thing up on your Hive Tyrant page.
oh, of course.
I obviously people who are listening probably know about the the day one snafu that occurred where everyone tried to log in, and apparently the system they were using, like, it can only, I guess it can only take 30 credit cards per 10 seconds or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And so obviously it wasn't working, and they had to like stop it and shut it down. And then had you have stayed logged into the page where your card was submitted, you just kept clicking pay now, and then it eventually just said cannot process your card, and you had to like retype in the information, just keep clicking and clicking. And after like a half hour of doing that, it was basically I had to re-enter it every single click as opposed to like every 10 or 15, which was what was happening before. And so I thought, okay, I'll go back and try to refresh this information by hitting forward again. And then it was logged out and registration was closed and full. And so then they released everything like in 15-minute increments later in the afternoon, like Star Wars at this time, 15 minutes later Game of Thrones, 15 minutes later Conquest. So it was a big pain, but we were recording this on Wednesday, and as of right now, 10:25 p.m. Central Time, you can still register for your Wave 2 Conquest. So Wave 2 hasn't even sold out yet. It's a little disappointing, but, I think Organized Play did Conquest, the Conquest community, no great favor by scheduling Game of Thrones tournament for Worlds the same day as Conquest tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose just before we really delve into the World Championship event dates, the only other news is we've got a new tournament kit coming up that you can order, I think, between now, when we're recording this, is July 6th, 2016. I think you have until July 28th to order it, but that's Q1, January 2017. We don't know what it contains. We haven't seen any images. It's just presumably additional tokens and some alternate art cards. And then our War Pack Unforgiven is available now in retailers everywhere, and Sam and I, as we usually do, we're going to crack open said pack and review all the contents. But Sam, back to the World Championships. It was kind of a gigantic shit show on the first day. I think what you probably should have done is just email OP and said, hey, I'm on a podcast. And you'd have probably gotten in immediately.
Well, yeah, I did email OP with some concerns I had about the, kind of snafu that was the 8 a.m. registration. And they were going to have to respond to me and, and hear me out on my concerns. So it was nice that I got a response back. And
I thought I was the verbose one. That was an impressive email.
Well, thank you. No, they were kind enough to respond. So they understand. There was a little bit of a snafu there, and they, I think they worked as fast as they could to remedy that situation. So.
Yeah, it did remind me of like a massive multiplayer online role-playing game launch where you're so excited to register or, spend money and buy this ticket, and then the server just immediately crashes.
Yeah.
So they did eventually get it at least semi-functional, and a lot of people more patient than the stereotypical American is they were able to just sit at the payment processing page, and their payment did eventually go through. So it seems like there are still tickets available again, at least at the time we're recording this. Is there anything weird about when they decided to schedule this event, Sam, apart from scheduling it, right at the same time as Game of Thrones?
Well, it's on a Wednesday, which is not ideal. Last year it was on a Friday and then Top Cut Saturday, whereas this year it's Wednesday and Thursday.
Right.
So, me personally, it actually worked out a little better for me personally. I have to take one less vacation day, and I got to tell the wife, hey, I'm not going to eat up a whole weekend being gone playing cards, which, made her happy. So,
Sure.
for me personally, it worked out. But I know there are a lot of people that aren't able to come because, it's in the middle of a work week, and maybe they could get off like a Thursday, Friday, or a Friday and come in for it. Whereas now, you basically have to take essentially 3 days during the middle of the week minimum to get there. And, people, obviously a lot of card players are younger people that are in college and they can't miss a whole week of class. I mean, such as yourself and
Sure.
Travis McDaniel. I talked to him and that was the reason he's not going to be able to go. So it's a little crummy that it's at the beginning, and it's a little crummy that it's on the same day as Game of Thrones, which is more popular, game and IP and everything else. So that kind of stinks, but, I'm not sure what they've capped it at. I've heard between 120 and 160, somewhere in there is the number, and assuming they, have released these ticket waves in equal number, which they said they're doing, you're looking at probably around 40 or 50 tickets sold per wave, which means if there's still some available today, we're probably sitting around, 75 people at the moment or something like that. So we'll see how big it gets. I don't think it'll be quite as big as last year just because of the date and the scheduling conflict with Thrones.
Yeah, I definitely know on the ever-popular Facebook page there was quite the community outcry about, I'd like to go, but I can't because of work, or, well, I want to participate in as many events as possible. And something else they're not really doing us any favors about is the World Eater tournament that they've done 2014, 2015, and now 2016. So the rounds of Swiss are November 2nd, starting at 10 in the morning on a Wednesday, and then the top cut of, they say 16, so maybe you can kind of reverse engineer what they're capping the number of players at. But anyways, that starts at November 3rd, Thursday at 9:30 a.m. But at 1 p.m., so just 3.5 hours later, they're holding that World Eater tournament. So I guess a lot of people could participate in Swiss and then the World Eater tournament, but there's a chance that you'd maybe miss watching the World Championship match if you want to go to the World Eater tournament. So it just seems like some kind of unusual timing.
Yeah, I mean, as cool as it is to watch the World Championship match live, I was there last year. I mean, we were both there last year, and I did watch some of the featured table games that day, but by the last game, as much as I wanted to see it, I was just tired of standing there watching Conquest from 5 feet away. So, I think it's kind of bad, I guess, in the respect that you might want to watch it. But, let's be honest, Mitch, how many people were standing there watching the final table last year that were there to watch Conquest? Maybe 15 people?
Yeah, something
something like that. So, for those 15 people, that stinks, but everyone else that got knocked out can play again.
Sure.
And unless you're in the top 4 or maybe top 2, I mean, if you get knocked out in the round of 16 or 8 or maybe even 4, you can go play in the World Eater. So
right.
That's kind of good, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it really only does inconvenience a few people. Probably the major determining factor preventing me from going is just because, as someone who's essentially guaranteed to make it into the finals, I just find missing the World Eater totally unacceptable. So, them's the breaks. Them's the breaks, yeah.
Well, I do know I should give a shout out here to Christopher Bates, Brain Damage 99. He and Nathan Gardner and John Gobet and Brian Reptash and I, we've all and Tobin Lopez as well from the Traxxas sector. We've all kind of been communicating, and they are going to set up, or they're going to try real hard to set up a third event, a second side event for Conquest sometime on the weekend. All the details have not been totally planned out, and I won't be there for it. But I'm going to donate some of the Black Crusade Alt Arts, and I know they're working on getting something going for the weekend, so that should be good.
Yeah, and I've seen some of the prototypical prize support, so it's some really cool stuff that they've got in the works. I won't spoil anything here in case it gets slashed or, they probably just want to unveil it at their own rate.
Sure.
But it definitely seems pretty cool, and I think they're going to be doing it at some hotel or another.
I think that's right, yeah.
And then the World Eater itself isn't actually held at the event center. It's going to be at an off-site hotel as well.
As are the Rounds of Swiss.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah. It's all going to be at the Radisson, which is like right there. I mean, that's like the hotel that's like, literally within a 3-minute walk. It's probably a closer or no further walk than the auxiliary space, and I can't imagine that it would be not better than the auxiliary space.
Yeah.
It stinks that we're not in the main hall for Swiss, but I'd take that Radisson over the auxiliary space. So
yeah, certainly agree. The auxiliary space for the 99.9% of people listening to this podcast, it's essentially like a warehouse with concrete floors and cheap plastic fold-out tables, and it's not exactly the lap of luxury. So a nice swanky hotel is definitely an upgrade.
Yeah, it's more Nurgle than Slaanesh in its in its decor. Let's put it that way. So.
Exactly, but it definitely does capture the grimdark feeling. So, yeah, I guess Worlds, best of luck to everybody going. Sam, you're going to be going. Are the details out for the First Planet Podcasts event that you're helping them with?
Yeah, we're going to do the second annual Planeteers Cigars and Beers. So for anybody listening that is going to be going up there for Conquest, or for anything, I suppose, but we're going to have a little kind of Conquest community gathering. It'll be Wednesday night, the night of the Swiss tournament. So for most people, the majority of us, there is no Top Cut the next day. I suppose there's still a World Eater tournament, but at 1 p.m. you can sleep off any beer you might be drinking. So it'll be at Joe Sensors, which is like a sports bar, just a few minutes walk/drive from FFG, and that'll be at 7 p.m. And we had a good time last year. Just come on down. Everybody can eat and drink, and they have a nice patio. I'll bring some cigars for anyone that wants to partake. So, yeah, it was a fun time last year. Everybody got to get together and chat and kind of, you don't really get to meet everybody when you're playing because you're playing your tournament. So
that's right.
It's a good social time. So anybody that's listening that's going to be at Worlds, come on by, and you can find us on Facebook. Just go to the First Planet, podcast page, and they've got the details there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say last time I probably enjoyed that more than playing cards, because at the event I was able to talk to Seth Rosen, who ended up taking second during the 2015 World Championships. I talked a ton with Varun Ketterpal, the UK national champion of 2015, who subsequently became the 2015 World Champion, the Australian national champion, the gentleman who came in the stead of the German national champion. So just a lot of cool guys there at the event, and of course everybody's got Conquest and myriad other games in common, so it was just an awesome event, and I really cannot recommend it enough. And of course the First Planet Podcast guys were all right. Probably the low point of the evening was meeting them, but still it was just fine.
Right.
But no, definitely recommend everybody go. I would speak very highly of their, oh God, what was it? It was like a chicken barbecue flatbread that was just, man, as someone who doesn't eat a lot of human food, or should I say American food, that was just heaven on a flatbread. But, Sam, before we crack open our Unforgiven War Pack, the second War Pack of the Death World cycle, and talk all about Epistolary Vezuel, the first warlord to be unveiled of that same cycle, let's do our traditional Tales from the Tabletop segment. So what are some interesting games that you've been playing lately?
Well, I would just like to start it out with, last episode you were trying to one-up me with how many times you have beaten our newly crowned U.S. national champ, Papa Khan.
Ooh.
And I busted out my new and improved Death World charged Dirty Dozen, and Mr. Reinhardt busted out Broderick War, and so I'm like, okay, it's a player who's really good, playing one of the best warlords, and I beat him pretty well, so I felt good about that.
Nice.
Pretty happy with myself. But let's see. I busted out Nazdrag. I built a new Nazdrag deck with Smash a Gun Battery, and it's like damn near a mono-themed deck. I just have one Chaos card, or 3 copies of one Chaos card in the deck. And last night I went on a nice little 3-0 win streak with that. So just still been playing a lot of Shadow Sun. Yeah, my Nazdrag games were all a little different. I mean, I had Smash a Gun Battery go off like all over this guy's Shadow Sun. I had 2 Maniac Repair Crews out, and I was just readying the support, and smashing them again. And it went really well. And then in the second game, I got Boss Zugnog out with, I put Crush Face out in the middle of the board, and then Zugnog right next to him.
Right.
And so for $6, I kind of had like, command of the first planet, because, Zugnog can scoot over there and then hit for 5 armor or 5 brutal. And so all 3 games went a little differently, but I won all 3 of them. So it was fun to bust out a Warlord that I hadn't played a lot recently at all. So what about you, man?
Well, I mean, first off, I'll just say it sounds like you've seen some pretty good success, and I just want to take a moment to kind of, I guess, sympathize and empathize with Rick, just because once you get a little bit of prestige behind your name, all of a sudden, even though card games are card games, and even, the best laid plans can go astray, and even if you play impeccably, you can still lose. All of a sudden, like, whenever he does lose, it's this big story people can tell. And
I'm just busting Rick's chops.
Oh, sure.
He knows, and I know he's a better player than me. But we were actually talking on Skype today about because other people have kind of included some of these new, Death World cards like Prince's Might and Cetherial in these Dirty Dozen Kugath decks, and or variations thereof. And the main problem with it is still consistency. I mean, I'm boasting here about how I beat Rick, but big whoop. It was one game.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have gone either way, and so I'm feeling all high and mighty. And then last night I played this guy 4 games in a row, and he was a good player, fine player. I got the sense though that he was probably just a little less experienced than me, and I kind of handled him on the games I won, and then I busted out for the 4th game. I busted out the Dirty Dozen, and he just crushed me. So this deck is fun, but it's still not consistent. And talking to Paul on Skype today and a couple other guys, and they kind of all have the same, I guess you'd call it experience or summary of that deck.
Sure.
A lot of new decks out there, a lot of these elites, people are experimenting, but we'll see how the consistency rate holds up with some of these new fun toys.
Yeah. Well, I guess to do my own tales from the tabletop, it's pretty simple. I've not sat and played a game of Conquest since last time, unless I'm under the pressure to perform while there's like an ongoing tournament hosted by you. I pretty much just stick to commentating other people. So I've tried to get in a lot of proxy projects like... Oh god, I've been trying to show off Epistolary Vezuel because he's available now. I've yet to do any preview videos for Jane Czar, so I was attempting to remedy that the other day, but it's, people couldn't figure out how to use Dropbox, and such wasn't installing, and then Octagon was crashing, and it was just like, oh my god. And then some interviews I had scheduled fell through, so I've been kind of taking a little bit of a break from trying to schedule a ton of stuff, and just kind of enjoying some of what else life has to offer apart from just tearing my hair out.
Sure. Well, it was fun to commentate since last time we sat down here, we did one of the semifinal games, yes, and then the final match for Black Crusade. So that was good to do with you. If you guys can tolerate listening to me alongside Mitch here, I recommend checking those out because they're both pretty good games. And then as Brian and I talked last time we were on here, and we had Brian on, we did do that his Shadow Sun Missile Pod deck against who was it that I was playing?
You were playing
Vauchelure. Yeah, Vauchelure. So that was a fun game too. So yeah, and hopefully in the near future, before we next record, I can help you with a Jane Czar proxy. So
yeah, because the dual commentary thing, it was super fun. It was a lot less lonely. So it was just good. And
those lonely nights commentating Conquest.
Exactly, and since I'm speaking the entire commentary, I can't really, do what people do. So I suppose with that said, Sam, why don't we take a look at Unforgiven? So please, as always, do me the honor of introducing us to Epistolary Vezuel, our latest Space Marines warlord, a faction that really could use a little bit of love, and then let's proceed to go through his signature squad.
All right, well, he is a Psyker and a Dark Angel. He's a 2/6, 7 cards, 7 resources to start. Reaction: after you deep strike a card, draw 1 card. Pretty cool. I mean, I was talking to a guy the other day. I don't know if this makes Primal Howl obsolete in his deck, or if you just run Primal Howl anyway for the shields and even more cards. Who knows? But he's kind of like the reverse Kato. Instead of getting potentially $1 or 2 or 3 or 4 per turn, you can draw an extra 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 cards. So I don't think Void Pirate's needed in his deck, but it seems very cool.
Yeah, I mean, he looks great. It's no secret that drawing cards in a card game is very strong. A lot of the new Deep Strike cards are, in and of themselves, very strong, so you're going to be running those cards. You may as well have essentially each and every one of them cantrip, where when you Deep Strike them, you draw an additional card. Because it takes place during battle, you might draw, Indomitable, Crushing Blow, Shield cards, Drop Pod Assault, a ton of different options. So at face value, I think he looks pretty superb, and he only gets better as you go through his squad. He looks great to me.
Yeah, he looks pretty strong. And we've talked before about how kind of the common perception is that like a card is worth 1.5 resources, so potentially he could be better than Kato as far as the economy goes. So we'll see, but let's move on to his signature unit here. This is the 3-cost army unit, Vezuel's Hunter. However, he's basically a deep strike net cost of 2. 1 command, 2/2, Soldier and Dark Angel, deep strike cost of 1. And reaction: after you deep strike this unit, deal 2 damage to a target enemy army unit at this planet. This is great. This is like having 4 little mini Ragnars in your deck. It costs $2 for a 2/2. Granted, if you deep strike him, you lose the command. You'd have to be really hard up to not deep strike this guy because he costs $1 less and his reaction goes off. Whereas you can pay 3 and get a command hammer, but then no reaction. So right. I think if you don't deep strike him, you're overpaying. But I mean, that's great. Just flip him over, have him ready for battle, and bam, deal out 2 damage to somebody. So pretty cool.
Yeah, generally when I play matches of Conquest, I find myself playing against enemy army units that I would like to deal damage to, so I think it's a very cool ability. I think a 2/2 with command icon and no ability for 3 is grossly overpriced, so it's always a bit of a heartbreaker if you play Drop Pod Assault and you pull a Vezuel's Hunters, and for that reason it might start to point us in the direction of, if you're playing Vezuel, you might want to reconsider including Drop Pod Assault. Like 8th Company Command Squad, they're a 3/3 for 3, but again, if you're Drop Pod Assaulting them, you're not getting any kind of ability whatsoever, and the more 3-cost units in your deck, the less likely you are to run stuff like Honored Librarian or White Scars Biker. So I'll just be really curious to see where deck building ends up for Vezuel, but the fact that you can use a copy or 2 of Hunters and deep strike them, and maybe you catch your opponent off guard, like maybe you kill their Viorlaw marksman that had a couple copies of gun drones on it, or any number of different really powerful effects. So
yeah, I just built a Vezuel deck before we sat down and recorded tonight, just to kind of get a feel for it for when we go over it here, and I haven't played him yet, I haven't proxied him yet, but I did take Drop Pod out for that exact reason. I mean, yes, you're drawing cards, and those can be tricks, but I included Crushing Blow, I included Indomitable, I included Eager Recruit. So those are kind of the tricks I'm hoping for, and I did put in a couple No Mercies. I think that when you deep strike these cards, and deal this 2 damage, No Mercy's popular in Ragnar for that exact reason, and I think that could be a good thing here, especially with that 8th Company what do they call it? 8th Company Scout?
Command Squad, I think.
Oh, 8th Company Command Squad. Okay. That's maybe why I call the 10th Company guy Command guy all the time. But anyway, after you deep strike them, you can ready a Warlord. So, like, do you deep strike all at once or one at a time, and then it's the reaction? Like, could I do a Vezuel's Hunter?
I think it's players alternate turns deep striking based on initiative, is my understanding.
Right. So, like, you could do Vezuel's Hunter, No Mercy with Vezuel, then deep strike the 8th Company and ready Vezuel.
Right.
Yeah. So, pretty cool. I'll be interested to see how that works out. Let's move on. Speaking of Vezuel again, let's move on to his attachment. That is something you're definitely going to want to not toss his shields, hopefully. This is the 1-cost attachment, 3 shields. Fulgaris. It is unique. It is a war gear and a weapon. It is not a relic, so I did include a few Iron Halos, speaking of 2 shield cards to include or not include in Vezuel. But Fulgaris here is attached to your Warlord and reaction. After you deep strike a card, attached unit gets +1 attack and +1 HP until the end of the phase. This is really cool. Now, again, you still don't want to get him at 6 damage or more, like early or mid game. You want to wait to let him get over that critical mass, until maybe the last battle or second to last battle or something. But to the potential to have even a 3/7 Warlord is strong, but a 4/8, maybe even a 5/9. I mean, that is huge. Yeah. So this is a very cool card, and I think it. Well, we'll get into like his deck building as a whole once we get through the other cards. But what do you think of this?
I just think it seems like it could be very powerful. In the right situation, I could easily see it being pitched as a shield, but at some big battle, it's not like you can Archon's Terror someone's Warlord, so even if you just trigger this a couple times or even more, you're looking at a very, very powerful combatant. And granted, that is until the end of the phase, so a la Frostfang for Ragnar, if you take a bunch of damage and then the phase ends, you could get bloodied, but if you play your cards right, literally and figuratively, I guess, you can just get some huge use out of this. If you've got initiative, swinging for 4 or 5 first is really, really strong. In Vezuel's Hunters, you can use Crushing Blow with their abilities, so the number of, shields you can demand from your opponent could be very, very intense. And I just think you could get a really unexpectedly powerful Warlord from Fulgaris here.
Yeah. His next card is the 0-cost support Dark Angels Cruiser. Upgrade and Dark Angels, so no location there.
Right.
Deploy action. Exhaust this support to put a target unit you control at a planet in reserve. Now, keep in mind you cannot put cards into reserve that are not deep strike cards. You can't flip over your Blood Angel veteran for whatever reason you would want to do that. I don't know, but you can't. You can only put cards into reserve that have the deep strike keyword. But, this isn't a super powerful ability, but it costs nothing, so, other than the card itself. But, this could be good. Like, there are many times where there's big battles going on aside from Planet 1, and I can definitely see the utility here in playing these guys, and if 1 or 2 of them survive, flip them back over so that you get their deep strike reaction to go off the next round. So, pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's... maybe it's a kind of subtle effect, but I do like it. It, of course, is a deploy stall. I think it's very important to note that you can only deep strike a card at a planet where a battle is taking place. So originally I was like, well, if there's a battle at planet number 1, why don't you, deep strike your Vezuel's Hunters at planet number 3 to kill an enemy unit or something. But that is not a legal play.
Is that sure? Are you right on that?
Yes.
Because it says when a battle begins.
Yeah, it's been clarified in that little rules insert.
It's been clarified in the rules insert. So there you go. So it's basically when a battle begins at this planet.
Right, yeah. So it's kind of misleading reminder text there.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I was thinking, like, why not pay... Like, if you have the Dark Angels cruisers out, it might be worth $1 to, like, command snipe further down the board or something.
Right. And that is what makes it kind of awkward, because you have to, like, send your Warlord to that planet, or just take advantage of some, like occasional opportunity there, which does make it a lot less consistent. Something I will say that I do like about this is Guy Lev did a proxy video for me where he was playing Vezuel a while ago, and he had one of his hunters already having deep striked at a planet, and the opponent put a 2 command icon unit opposite it, and it was like, well, I'm not going to win command anyway. I may as well just turn it face down again. So...
Yeah, I mean, and we have to remember, not only is this thing free, so you don't have to pay to put it back into reserve, you're just paying the 1 cost to deep strike the hunters or, whatever card it might be. But the good thing is, like, if you deep strike it again, then Vezuel gets to draw another card.
Yes.
So, and Vezuel doesn't have to be at the planet where the card is deep struck. Like,
Right.
If Vezuel's off command sniping down at planet 4 and you got a big battle at 1, you can deep strike and and get those cards going. So pretty cool. I guess his signature event, to me, it seems the least sexy of these cards.
I agree.
Is the Unseen Strike. It has no cost, no deployable cost, I should say, because it can only be deep strike. 1 shield. It is a tactic. Deep strike cost of 1, so a net cost of 2. And reaction. After you deep strike this event, you gain the initiative in this battle. We know initiative is important. I guess this might stink against Gorzad with a bunch of Goes Faster units.
Yeah, you may not want to deep strike it in that case.
But, I have noticed as, like, war has come on strong, that... I don't know if this is just me or it's a product of war or it's just something I became more cognizant of because of war, but it does seem like lately I've noticed that combat can go multiple... It seems like it's going more rounds, like more combat rounds per planet.
Sure.
It's not just 1 or 2. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 or 4. And, for 1 combat round, having the initiative isn't that big of a deal. Okay, I get to hit first instead of you. But now if it's 2 combat rounds or 3 combat rounds, there's many times where you're looking at the table and you're like, man, shit, if I just had initiative, I could win this thing. But I don't, and that's the deciding factor in me having to retreat or whatever. So I think it's going to be very situational. I think it's the most situational card in his pod. But, at worst case, it's a 1 shield, and at best case, it can swing the tide of battle.
Yeah, when we were doing our dual commentary for the Black Crusade finals, not to give out any spoilers or something, but a warlord ends up getting bloodied, and time again it was like, oh, if only player X had initiative, they'd be able to swing first and potentially score a kill, and then that would be the game right there.
Right, yeah, there was that one big battle in the final, I think it was maybe turn 4 or something like that, where it seemed to last multiple combat rounds. And, that's kind of that situation I'm talking about where
Sure.
You're not hitting first once, you're hitting first 3 or 4 times. And that's where I think this thing can pay off.
Yeah, and I think it does also allow you a little bit more freedom to... Your warlord can just go wherever to snipe economy units. Like, you're never going to be in a situation where it's like, oh, I don't want to send my warlord to this planet, but I really want to make sure that I have initiative. So it might just let you just... squeeze every drop of value out of a play here. And I suppose really the only other thing I have to mention about this is you cannot deep strike it if you aren't actually changing the game state. So, like, if you already have initiative at a battle, you can't deep strike Unseen Strike just because you're not changing initiative. Like, Vezuel's reaction is in response to it, but it's not the actual effect. So it's...
I see.
Yeah. So it's just, I guess, good to know how to use your cards, but it's...
Yeah, the numbers prove that not starting the game with initiative is, it could be a outline statistic, but statistically speaking, you're more likely to win if you don't start the game with initiative. Not by much, but a little. And so... The one downside to that is that when it gets to a 5 or 7 planet game, now you didn't start with initiative, and now you're off initiative at that big battle at the end, and this can kind of change that too. So
yeah, well, and I think there's probably a lot to be said where in combat it's probably better to act first
Correct. Yeah.
sometimes, and then during the command phase, obviously it's better to go second, so you can just kind of swing the combat in your favor. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
Deploy second, hit first. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It reminds me of how the X-Wing miniatures game works a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
But-
not familiar. I'm familiar with the game.
Yeah,
but I'm not
it's
familiar with that style.
I think, and I've not played it in a long time, but it's something like the higher someone's pilot skill, like they get to act first and fire second, or no, I think they act last, where you have all the information, and then they fire first. So yeah, it's that kind of thing. But I will say it's probably a much better event than I initially gave it credit for.
Yeah.
But I suppose, what do you think about like playstyle, strengths, and weaknesses, and deck building for Vezuel?
Well, number one, I'll be interested to see if he knocks Ragnar to the clear bottom of the Space Marine ladder.
Right.
Because, his 4 copies of the Hunters are kind of doing the Ragnar thing. He's getting cards. I mean, I think he could be strong. Mavros is very strong. We've seen that off the bat. It's a relatively small sample size, but, this last Black Crusade tournament, I mean, we had 544 games, and Ragnar did not do very well at all, especially compared with Mavros and Kato. So I'll be interested to see where Vezuel fits in within the Space Marine hierarchy. I think for deck building, I'm very tempted to go Tau over Astra Militarum. Right now, at this moment in time, Tau have no deep strike cards. We know that's changing soon, but the only common deep strike card Astra Militarum have is the Scion Strike Force, which, to me, that doesn't scream like, oh, I need to take Astra Militarum for this card, and I think you want to take Tau for the ECT. You can find Fulgaris with it. You can find the Valkyrie's Pattern Assault Pack with it. Maybe you're packing a couple ion rifles. Worst case, you find a promotion. I think he's going to be in this interesting cost curve where you need the one-cost command cappers. You need your 10th Company Scouts. You need your rogue traders. You need those ECTs so that you hold steady in command, because some of your fighting units are going to be deep struck and in reserve and not contributing any command hammers. So I'm tempted to go that route as well. And I'm going to try out the Fire Warrior Elite since I'm going with Tau, because I did a little bit of Valkyrie's Assault Pack testing in Mavros with that Fire Warrior Elite, and it was pretty good. And it's just another way to keep your units safe. It's another way to keep Vezuel himself safe and not get over that expanded threshold that Fulgaris might give him, where he'd be bloody the instant the phase is over. So I'm going to try that out. I do think you're onto something with the no drop pod, perhaps, just because with that weird cost curve of you want your one cost command cappers, and then maybe if you're running, I mean, you're probably running, as it is right now, you're running that Valkyrie's Assault Pack, so maybe you want the Fire Drake Terminators, or in this meta, you probably want a couple copies of Imperial Fist Devastators. And these are cards that don't work with drop pod. You don't want to drop pod in your Hunters. You don't want to drop pod in the 8th Company Scouts or squads. So I think, again, I'm still kind of torn on Primal Howl or not. I think Void Pirate is not needed. I think Rogue Trader is. I just don't think card draw is going to be a problem with him. But that could change once I really get down and play him a few times. So that's kind of where I'm at with deck building.
Well, I will say Tau screams to me like Tense Negotiations as a decent card, and that works great with 8th Company Command Squad. And then since you mentioned Ion Rifle, if you've maybe got a Hunters or something that's like a 5/2, then Unseen Strike definitely increases in value. So I could definitely see that for sure.
Yeah, it's a good thing you brought up Tense Negotiations. I think you'd mentioned that last time too, because during the command phase, use that as an action, exhaust Vezuel, and then, deep strike in that 8th Company squad to get him readied again. Or the No Mercy trick I talked about earlier. It's like you might have one of those 6 copies of those, cards in your hand. Some utility there. I'm even going to try, I don't know if there's going to be room for it, but I'm going to try a couple copies of Ambush Platform as well. If I'm running Tau and I'm running ECT, I might as well take a few ion rifles or something, and it'd be nice to give these deep striking cards a little more punch after they've been revealed. So Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think that's going to be one of their biggest weaknesses is they're just a face-down card who knows what they are, and you can't really load them up with attachments until you unveil their identity. So definitely cool combo, and I just look forward to see how he builds and how he plays. But I suppose with our Warlord covered, what's up for our first, non-signature faction? What's in store for the Astra Militarum?
All right, we've got a 4-cost army unit, the Firstborn Battalion. These are some mean-looking Vestroyan hipsters with their beards. So they've got 2 command, 3 attack, 4 HP. They are loyal, soldier and Vestroya traits. And while you control 3 or more support cards, this unit gains mobile and ranged. That's pretty big. I mean, 4 cost is kind of that no man's land of cost, but a 2 command, let's put it in war or Strachan here. It's a 2 command 4/4 with mobile and ranged.
Right.
Conditionally, but the war decks I've seen, even the Strachan decks I've seen lately, you typically have more than 3 supports out, so or 3 or more supports out. So I like this guy. I haven't played with him yet, but very interesting card, and it seems like, again, you talk about vanilla test, a 4/4 with 1 hammer is kind of vanilla. Throw on a second hammer, throw on mobile, throw on range. This thing's pretty good.
Yep, it definitely strikes me as a possible value town. But, when it comes down to it, what I really like about this is when you control 3 or more support cards, it's mobile and ranged. Ranged occurs at the very beginning of combat, and mobile occurs at the very beginning of the combat phase. So you can use supports like Troop Transport and Inquisitorial Fortress, and maybe you attack during ranged, because you've got 3 supports, and then after you've already used mobile, after you've used ranged, then you blow up your transport, get your pair of tokens, and then you use your Inquisitorial Fortress to rout an enemy unit. Mm-hmm. Everybody likes Ammo Depot, and since this is ranged, I mean, people play Catachan Outpost with Rattling Deadeyes, for Christ's sake. So I definitely envision that might be a pretty decent include with the Firstborn Battalion here.
Yeah, I did hear some talk that it might fit well in Strachan because of the soldier, but because War can't afford him. But it's not like War's running high cost units. I think he can find room for a couple or 3 copies of a 4-cost unit, no problem.
Well, and as is becoming more and more clear, it is quickly becoming a liability to run really heavy on your 2 or lower cost units.
Yes.
Like, not only is Sowing Chaos an issue, but it just seems like card after card is, the Prince's Might, they can't hurt your demons. Something else is probably just, outright destroy them. And even this war pack contains some hate for those low cost cards. And it looks like part of that elite empowerment that we're seeing is not just making elites more viable, but really punishing players for sticking to the dirt cheap meta that everybody's used to playing.
Yeah. All right, next up we've got the 1-cost support. It is unique. The Clear Cut Refuge. It is common. It is a location. Action. Exhaust the support to give a target unit plus X HP until the end of the phase. X is the highest printed cost among units you control. This seems pretty good. I mean, oftentimes you have a 3-cost unit out. If you run an elite deck, I mean, Astra Militarum doesn't scream elite, but you can take this in Ork, which has expensive units out. You can take this in Space Marines, which often have the fired rank Terminators out. So, you can give a guy 4 or 5 extra HP for $1 every turn. I mean, granted, it goes away at the end of the phase, but
Right.
Pretty good. And I like the artwork. This guy's just chilling. He's getting a little respite from the rain. He's got his cup of coffee. And because of this spoiler posted on Facebook here, with the light, it looks like he's having a little smoke break here. With the, so he's just a chilling soldier. Definitely, hanging out and just, I guess, waiting to drain the last dregs of that coffee and then go buff up the HP. So
Right. Or there is a big streak of glare, so maybe he's using some sort of code system to signal to allies that
That's
something's going
Maxim's
on.
searchlight shining into the tent, I guess.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, but this guy does seem like he'd go well in Maxim.
Sure.
Who's going to be running these big tanks? That Lehman Russ Conquer, that thing looks like it'd work well with this thing. So.
Yeah. I mean, what I like about it is even though it's unique, you can scarcely go wrong with one resource for the support, and its target unit gains plus X HP, where X is the highest printed cost for any unit. So it could be like, okay, I've got my, 5 cost elite at planet number 4, but my throwaway unit that I've got at planet number 1, I'd love to give that plus 5 hit points.
Sure.
And if it survives until the end of the phase, that means you can win battles that you'd have otherwise lost. And it just really strikes me as this is a damn decent card. For the Firstborn Battalion, Maxim is not just about expensive units, but he's also about running a ton of supports. And that Firstborn Battalion, it's not that they really need to benefit from bonus HP exactly, but they're expensive. A 3/8 or, a 4/8 is pretty damn superb. And I didn't mention it before, but it just seems like that's a fantastic Warlord Assassin because mobile on a ranged unit is really going to let you, have a nice wide threat range to hunt down the enemy warlord. So, I don't know. Just strikes me as these are a pair of winners for sure.
Yeah, they work together, like you say, for warlord hunting, or sniping. The other thing, too, maybe you could say, well, the unique thing is a knock against it, and I don't want to run 3 copies of it because the other 2 are dead. But I have noticed lately it's okay more than it used to be to run 3 copies of a unique support because there's so much support destruction out now,
right.
And I was playing against my buddy Kurt the other night, and he blew up my STC fragment, and the next turn I just played another one. And, in that case, I was happy to have it. And then in Maxim, if you're going up against a deck that, maybe clearly doesn't have support hate in it, toss this thing as a shield, baby, so no problem.
Yeah, not really enough good things to say about this card. Looks totally solid, and in an allied context, just what a giant pain in the ass that an off-initiative Blood Angels veterans might be. It's a 3/6 naturally, or if you've got even more expensive units, that just seems like a total nightmare. And because it's printed cost, even if you're doing something like STC fragments to get your Fire Drake Terminators for 3, they still count as printed cost 5. So it just seems like a stellar pair of cards, and, Astra Militarum get some winners, and this isn't necessarily even more fuel for the, Broderick Wars ruining the game fire. So
yeah, no, it feels like it fits more in Maxim or
yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mitch, do you know what time it is?
Slaya time?
It's time to crump 'em hard and crump 'em fast. Give 'em no time to crump you back, my friend, because we have Gorgol de Slaya. This is our orc unit that we spoiled last episode, but now he's here for the world to play with. 4-cost army unit unique, Gorgol de Slaya, no command, 4/5, soldier and knob with the interrupt. When a unit you control at this planet is declared as an attacker, your opponent cannot trigger effects until after that attack resolves. So, why don't you kind of run down what that kind of does and doesn't shut off?
So what Gorgol de Slaya does is while he's at a planet, when a unit you control is declared as an attacker, your opponent can't use any kind of effects until after that attack is completely resolved, which means you declare an attacker, you declare a defender, you distribute, your appropriate amount of damage to the defending unit. Your opponent has the opportunity to shield, and then the unit either lives or dies. So it prevents your opponent from using effects like Indomitable that prevent damage from an attack. It also shuts off the opportunity for your opponent to use Reanimating Warriors, because that's an interrupt, where interrupts always take place immediately prior to their triggering condition, so it puts it during that damage window, and it also prevents your opponent from using effects effects like Blood Angels Veterans and Fire Drake Terminators that trigger when a unit is assigned damage or when they're declared a defender. But
yeah, it would shut off. It would shut off repulsor field impact. Correct. Yeah.
is that after a unit takes damage?
Oh, that's after it takes damage. Correct. So it would
Yeah.
not.
So
What
to-
about when you said? I'm sorry. Let me interrupt you. When you said interrupt, what about Elysian Assault Team?
Yeah, so that would be another one where, because Elysian Assault Team is an interrupt, it would have to interplay immediately prior to that unit being destroyed. So because that's an impossible game state, that's another thing that's shut off by Gorgle here.
Okay, so this is
But-
like an anti-Space Marine card, essentially.
Yeah, sure. And then what's kind of interesting about it is, as we've had clarified by K-Tom and Paul Steiner on the Card Game DB forums, who kind of work hand in hand with the development team, it does not include forced effects like Bodyguard, because they're seen as like this separate framework style entity. So anything forced, you kind of
Right,
have
because
to
that,
do.
like, yeah, that would be like your opponent's not triggering it, like the game is triggering it.
Yes,
I guess.
Yes,
right.
that's a
okay.
great way of putting it. And then another few things that it doesn't include is reactions that take place after a unit takes damage or after a unit is destroyed. Because after a unit is destroyed is after you've dealt it damage, and then after a unit takes damage is after you've dealt it damage, and once you've dealt the damage, that means that the attack is resolved and Gorgle no longer does his thing. And again, it's just good to keep in mind that because interrupts happen before their triggering condition, they're not happening after. So certain reactions like Repulsor Impact Field do, like, you can use them, but certain ones you can't. So, but it's definitely a little bit tricky, and you've kind of got to really work through mentally what it can shut off. But with all that said, Sam, you've been playing Nozdreg lately. Are you thinking about running this guy?
You know, I didn't put him in the deck I built last night, and only because these cards weren't up on, or at least I overlooked it if they were up on Conquest DB. You know, he is unique. I do have No Mercy in that deck because of Smash a Gun Battery. And, you know, his stat line, it's like you're trading a command for an HP. Instead of a 1 command 4/4 for 4, he's a no command 4/5. And his interrupt is situationally strong. I mean, if you're going into a tournament where you know you're going to see a lot of Space Marines, or you're in a meta where you know you have a lot of Space Marines to face, he seems pretty good. And he's got 5 HP, so in Nozdreg, you know, just soak on the damage and smack him for, you know, 6 or 8 or whatever. So he's not like an auto-include, but I think he's a good card. And he's, as I've already said, he's got the best flavor text in the game, so...
Yeah, I'll just be really curious to see what, if anything, is done with him. Unique provides a lot of immunity, but unlike Cetherial the Invocator, he is loyal, and Orc decks are kind of high on the cost curve and low on the number of available command icons, and I really only think that you're going to be getting the most out of his effect against a pretty select range of decks. So it seems like a definite tech card, and I suppose I'll just be curious to see if more stuff comes out during Death World to justify including him in a deck.
Well, Mitch, if you need help on command, let me introduce you to our next card. This is the 2-cost attachment, 2 shield, loyal, Great Iron Gob, War Gear. Attached to an Orc army unit you control, attached unit gains the Knob trait, and each army unit you control at this planet gains a command icon. I do believe I can sum this up with the show notes that you painstakingly wrote here. Helps command, shitty card.
Yeah, you know, I couldn't have written it in the show notes better myself. It's a 2-shielder.
It's got that going for it. You know, I mean, Orcs do need command. I don't know if pissing away a 2-shield for $2 on an army unit is worth getting everyone at one planet a command. At that planet, a command. If it was like every Orc unit you control gains a command, that'd be huge.
Right.
I mean, I guess with this and Painboy Tent in a deck, you got command for days, but yeah, I think this could be good if the knob trait is further developed, but until then, I'm sticking with your show notes summary.
Yeah, it just seems like, maybe you've got all the command icons in the world at a planet and the enemy warlord shows up and you still lose command. You're investing 2 resources in a card, and unless you've got a bunch of scrap nabas piled onto Barlas or Eloith or something, well,
Right.
not, I guess Barlas is green and Eloith is blue, so I don't know,
Yeah,
like
there's
some...
not. It'd be Farron. Farron's the one, like, 2 resource.
Yeah, right. So maybe you use this to get some ungodly amount of resources, but, if you've got your scrap nabas piled on a planet, you're probably going to want to send your warlord there just to make sure that you can win commands. So it just seems like this is way too expensive. It's requiring that you've got a lot of units all stacked on the same planet, and it's not even like a guarantee that you're necessarily going to be winning command there, just because, maybe your opponent just has more command icons, even if you do add some stuff. And it's army units, it's not tokens, it's not, anything else. So there's no knob synergy. It's just like, again, I suppose we'll have to see if other knob stuff comes out to make this a card that's worth taking a second look at. So
Yeah, and this is a bit off topic, but while we're talking about orcs here, I should have mentioned this during the Tales from the Tabletop segment, but I do have to tell you guys real quick about this crazy play. I was playing my buddy Joe, user of Vodders, and he had, I think it was Joe that I was playing, so if it wasn't, I apologize, but he had a possessed with the, what is it, Big Goth Choppa, 2 attack and armor bane?
Goth Big Choppa.
Goth Big Choppa. He had a possess with that on it, okay? So that was going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And I was able to swing first and kill the thing. And he played Made to Fight, he played...
Outflank him?
No, it was Made to Fight, where when the unit you control leaves play, deal damage equal to its printed attack.
Yeah.
He played Made to Fight, killed a guy, played a second Made to Fight, hit my Fire Drake Terminator for 9. It had a stealth cadre on it, and I did 2 shield it. So he was hanging on by a thread, and then he played a third Made to Fight.
Dear God.
And somehow I won that battle and won that game. It was crazy. It was only because I was holding on to that 1/2 shielder. And that was just enough. But Made to Fight on a possessed, that is a real thing. So watch out for that, people.
Yeah.
But let's speaking of chaos, let's move on to our chaos cards here. Mitch, what do we got first?
Well, I guess we've got a pair of army units and then an attachment, but first we've got our Infectious Nurgling. It's a 1-cost army unit, no command. It's a 2/1 demon Nurgle, and the Armor Bane keyword. So with Zarathr, it can attack for 3 Armor Bane. Otherwise, it's swing for 2 for just 1, but it's a Nurgle. It can equip War Gear, and every time we've talked about this card, I've said equip it with Blight Grenades and do Armor Bane area effect 2 or 3 with Zarathr, but anything else for this card, Sam?
Yeah, it's a classic better in Zarathr type Nurgle card. Yeah, I mean, Blight Grenades, if you want to get that off, that's too janky even for me, I think, but go for it. And he is a good target for Infernal Gateway, speaking of Zarathr,
Sure.
Drop this guy in and hit for 3. Armor Bane, potentially. So, I don't know how much play he'll see outside of Zarathr, and I'm not even convinced how much he'll see within Zarathr, but, 1 cost, 3 Armor Bane's pretty good, so we'll see.
Not great with a Fetid Haze, though, and probably not going to put the Plague Father's banner on him.
I think you are correct in those assumptions.
I really need that 2/2 Armor Bane that can shift damage off of it.
Well, let's move on to something a little sexier here. What's up next?
Right, so bipedal seahorses, apparently. Seekers of Slanesh is a 5-cost army unit, 2 command icons. It's common, Demon, Slanesh, and Elite. It's a 4/5, no war gear attachments, and action is sacrifice a cultist unit at this planet to draw 1 card. So, Vashalur generates cultists in mass, and this allows you, like, just, I don't know, a faucet that you can turn off and on to transform those cultists into, instead of 1 resource equivalent, a card.
The one thing I do not like about this is it's at this planet.
Right.
And it is not often that cultist units are at planets. Now, it can be a Splintered Path Acolyte. It can be a Chaos Fanatic. Yes, granted. But maybe you paid with the Splintered Path Acolyte, you paid 1, that got you over the command hump threshold, and you won command, and now you can get a card out of the guy. I don't know if I'd love sacrificing a Fanatic that cost me $2 just to get a card. And then the cultist tokens themselves, they're never hardly at the planets. I mean, once in a while you see someone play Promise of Glory and then not use them to deploy a demon for a discount and drag them to the planet with their warlord. But with Warpstorm, especially with Gleeful Plague Beast, with Kugath Nurglings, like, that's just not viable. Xavies puts the cultist in HQ. Vashalur himself puts the cultist in HQ. I was really excited, and then when I kind of read it more finely, I kind of got down on it.
Yeah, I will say what is kind of neat is if you do the, cultist token sent with your warlord to a planet, then during, like, the command phase, you can use this action, maybe before they're eaten by a Gleeful Plague Beast, and
Sure.
And you can also attack with cultists and then sacrifice them, but I can't think of the last time I saw even a cultist trait army unit attack. So
yeah, once in a while, it's like, up against a one attack warlord, you might see the Fanatic swing back for 1 and then retreat or something.
Right.
But that's like the only time you see cultist attack. I mean, the ones you're dragging in from HQ, it's not likely they're going to get to ready for the next round and then attack and then sack them. I think what you said about command is the best time. You're paying $0 on a card for Promise of Glory. You drag them to the planet, and then before they die, you get 2 cards out of the deal. So, could be good. I mean, it's a 2-command 5/5 in Zarather. So, that's pretty good. So, we'll see how this thing works out.
yeah, I'll be really curious. Like, it doesn't exactly work with Master Warpsmith because, you're kind of torn between, do I want double resource equivalent out of my cultists, or do I want them as a
Right.
card? But it just seems interesting, but its ability definitely is no, like, Ancient Keeper of Secrets, where it's just sacrifice it anywhere. I do like that there's no cap to it, but I'm just not blown away by it. I will say probably the coolest use for it would be drawing a Promise of Glory for 0. You generate a couple cultists, and then, provided you do send your warlord to a planet, you can draw another couple of cards, which could be some cool combat trick. So maybe it'll be good for really digging through your deck, but it's okay. I'm not blown away, but it is definitely a card to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for sure. What do we have next?
Well, last for Chaos, we've got a 0-cost attachment, 1 shield, Mark of Slanesh. It is Curse trait and Slanesh trait attached to an army unit. When attached unit leaves play, move an army unit you control to this planet. So it's almost like a Mark of Chaos, but I guess you can put this on a friendly unit or an enemy unit. It confers immunity to Warpstorm, and when you end up losing a unit, you can basically pick any army unit you control and move it to that planet.
Yeah, I mean, this would be good on something that, like, you control when it leaves, like a Zarather Flamer or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, like, ultra powerful. Like, I didn't look at this and go, holy shit,
Yeah.
game breaking.
Right.
But I can see its use and I can see its utility. It's any army unit, so you could maybe, move an elite over, hit with the elite. Then when you won the battle, you can teleportarium that elite back to where you need him next time or something. So, potentially pretty cool.
It does seem like the game is moving in the direction of movement effects are just so incredibly powerful. We're seeing so much Wild Rider Squadron and Wild Rider Viper lately, and this could be cool. Like, I'm having flashbacks to some of the Vash'Ilur games you've played for me, where it's like, okay, Black Legion Helldrake on planet number 1, the enemy isn't going to play anything, just have it get obliterated. Or even if they do, like Black Legion Helldrake swings, kills something, it readies. It has a combat turn with no enemy units present. You win that battle, you capture the planet, it goes to your HQ. Maybe you're fighting another battle, your unit or an enemy unit dies, and then you can move your big nasty elite from your HQ to that battle again. So I think this is probably a deceptively strong card that depends on how exactly you're building your deck, but it just definitely seems very elite friendly. And it's hard to go wrong with cost 0, so maybe this is something you use in conjunction with Corrupted Teleportarium, or maybe it acts as somewhat of a replacement, but it just seems like a really cool card, and I guess it could be a really great deterrent as well for telling your opponent, if you snipe my command unit at this planet, you're really going to pay for it.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point too. The command snipe thing. So pretty cool card. We'll see how that works out. I'm not like, ooh, I gotta put it in this deck, but there could be some cool spots for it, I think.
Yeah,
so.
And I definitely think it's going to be a pain in the ass, whether it's blowing somebody away with like its power at face value or not. I just think it's going to be really irritating to actually see it played.
Yeah.
But we've still got some more factions to go. So what's up for Dark Eldar?
All right, we've got an army unit, Deep Strike army unit here. It's the printed cost of 3, the Mandrake Cutthroat. 1 command 2/2 warrior common. Deep Strike cost of 1, so a net Deep Strike cost of 2. Reaction: after you Deep Strike this unit, destroy a target ally traded unit at this planet. This doesn't seem super strong to me. Ally hate's kind of a thing, I guess, especially with Dark Eldar. You've got the spies or whatever, but we're still not seeing a ton of allies. Probably the most popular ally is, what are they called? Slith Mercenaries.
Sure.
So that's a Dark Eldar card, and Flayed Skull Slava. It's like, if you're going up against Dark Eldar, then good, but it's common. Maybe there's room for it in Eldar, in Chaos. I don't know. It doesn't blow me away. What do you think?
I think it really depends what all else we see come out. We have seen a few powerful allies, but they're kind of few and far between, like Freebooter Captain. I've not really seen a lot of people use. That's a 3-cost 3/3 ally. Taliesin could make this warrior potentially a 3/3 if she plays it alongside a Psyker. So it seems okay, but it's a little bit of a tech card, and it's not like we've seen a ton of Eldar and Dark Eldar Deep Strike synergy yet. So I think the art is fantastic. It reminds me just how badly I do not want to have my throat slashed. But it's an okay card. I'm just in no hurry to actually play the thing.
Yeah, it is awesome artwork. It's like that Baleful Mandrake guy just, slicing someone's throat with this giant serrated knife. So, pretty cool. Let's move on to this other Dark Eldar card. I think it's much more interesting. It is the 1-cost event, 1,000 Cuts. It is 2 shields. It is loyal. It is a tactic and torture. Combat action. Deal 1 damage to a target non-elite army unit. Then shuffle this card back into your deck. It has the awesome flavor text of 1, 2, 3, 4. I just picture a Urian in a 3-piece suit saying, amazing, it's the same combination I have on my luggage. But
and I thought it was the ants go marching.
There you go. But for Urian, this is a 0-cost event. It's a 2 shield. This just screams Hypex Injector.
Right.
It's a 2 shielder for 0 cost in Urian, and the fact that you get to shuffle it back into your deck. You could just keep drawing these things, and very cool card.
Yeah, I'll be really curious to see how practical it is, but I love the possibilities. Like, the dream scenario is you play it and you shuffle it back into your deck and then you draw it a bunch and then you keep playing it. The only problem is Urian isn't exactly known throughout the Traxxas sector as having a really powerful command game necessarily, and Seth Rosen he's actually done a really damn decent job of showing that in the early game, if you can starve your opponent of army units, whether it's through Power from Pain and or Visions of Agony, you can gain a really substantial command lead. And then if you can use 1,000 cuts to destroy your opponent's economy, then you can make sure they don't get cards, don't get resources, and then you can end up doing really, really well.
Yeah.
I think probably one of my favorite cards in the game is his signature Ichor Gauntlet. And if you're able to do that, Urian's at a planet by himself, so he can keep exhausting and doubling effects thing. The benefit you can get out of 1,000 cuts is pretty insane. So
Yeah, it's pretty good. And if you draw it, like, you shuffle it back in and you draw it next turn, maybe just recycling the 2 shields is more important for the next round than actually playing the event. So pretty good.
yeah, so real cool card, and yeah, as a 2-shielder, it always merits at least some consideration. I do not see it really being used for anybody apart from Urian, but I guess
Yeah.
Seth, his preliminary assessment was to replace the very expensive Searing Brand for this much more versatile card.
Yeah. All right, next up we've got Eldar. We have the 2-cost army unit Adherent Outcast. It is common, scout, no command, 1/3. Each elite easy for me to say. Each elite unit you control at this planet gains flying. So this is another one of these 2-cost 1/3s that we see that offer elite protection. But I mean, elites with flying is kind of a thing, and if they don't want their elites to have flying, then they have to waste an attack on this guy who, in and of himself, isn't a combat threat. So, pretty cool, I think. Not auto-include slam dunk, but in some of these elite-heavy Eldrath decks that we've seen, this could be pretty cool.
Yeah, Wild Rider Viper is much more threatening as a 5/4 flyer as opposed to just a 5/4. And like you're saying, maybe your opponent does have to invest 1 attack in your Outcast, but with 3 hit points, if you've got a 2-value shield card, which isn't the most common thing in the world, it seems, with Eldar, that can just be a gigantic pain in the ass. So,
yeah,
seems like a totally reasonable little guy, just a bummer and kind of strange actually to see an Eldar card that's a unit that doesn't have a command icon.
Yeah, it's kind of a rarity.
Yeah, but I guess scout keyword or scout trait just means that, if you're big into Nahumek, who does that Tombblade Squadron build, scout obviously synergizes great with that. So a lot of interesting options here.
Yeah, a flying monolith could be a pain in the ass.
Right.
Yeah. All right, next up we've got the nil deploy cost Concealing Darkness event. 1 shield, common, power trait, deep strike net cost of 2 here, deep strike printed cost of 1. Reaction, after you deep strike this event, you may deploy each Eldar unit in your hand at this planet as though it had ambush until the end of the phase. $2 is a little expensive to get all your cards that you have in hand, no discount to come in, but ambush is strong, and Eldar don't have a problem with command, and so, throw in a Black Guardians in Farrenhal, throw in a Warlock Destructor in any damn deck, for, you're going to have 2 or 3 or 4, maybe $5, and I can see the value in being able to surprise with this card. And unlike Gift of Isha, it won't be dying after it comes in out of nowhere to surprise your opponent.
Yeah. I just think it's a bit of a bummer that those units you're holding back in your hand, they're not going to be able to help you win command, and maybe you can be as efficient as possible with where you play those units. I suppose you could put this at planet number 1, and you really want to deploy a bunch of stuff at planet number 2, but it's not like safe to do it yet. But if your opponent shows up at planet number 1, you really need to reinforce that planet, like if it's a victory condition for them or something along those lines. Then I could see using this event, but really when it comes down to it, like, ambush is always nice, but it's not like you've got a bunch of Eldar units that benefit from ambush. It's not like when they interplay, they do such and such. So it just seems like this is all right, but it's expensive. It's only the 1 shield card. If you're allied with Tau or Dark Eldar, you can't ambush those units. So I think this seems okay. It's just a little bit underwhelming to me.
I mean, I guess if you have $5, you can ambush in a Wraith Knight.
Yeah, and I mean, but, and then that's great.
Yeah.
Pick and choose.
But that's not going to happen often.
Right.
Yeah. I do think, though, that the artwork tells us that Eldar are better than Tyranids, because this is the Eldar version of the Predation artwork.
Yeah.
It's an Astra Militarum unit looking around, not knowing what the hell's behind them, and an Eldar, guy behind him about ready to kick his ass. So
right, like a little striking scorpion dude with his hidden chainsword or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah, so I don't know, not sold on that one, but who knows, maybe someday. But Sam, last time we had the opportunity to talk about our pair of upcoming Tau cards, and why don't you remind us about those?
Yeah, we've got the 1-cost army unit Grav Inhibitor Drone. This is a little cute drone that's given the Orc unit a headache here on the artwork. He is common, drone trait, no command, 0 attack, 4 HP. Each unit with printed cost 2 or lower at this planet cannot attack, while a unit with a printed cost 3 or higher at this planet is ready. So we kind of talked about this last time, but in an elite heavy Tau deck, or because it's loyal, an elite heavy Eldar deck or Space Marine deck, this guy does, I think, warrant some inclusion. Even in Shadow Sun, throw a stealth cadre on him, and now he's a 2/6, and, the goal is to wipe out all their 2-cost units before your last 3-cost unit, or any 3-cost unit, I should say, at the planet, yours or theirs, swings. Yeah. And, I can see a spot for this. I mean, the no command's not great, but I think his ability kind of makes up for that. He's not an auto-include, but in the right deck, he can be, I think, potentially powerful.
Sure, and I was talking about Broderick War being really punished for keeping his cost curve so low. I did this last time, but the most recent iteration of War that I played for my regional championship and for the most recent Black Crusade had 4 army units that were higher than 2 cost in it. So that really hurts me. And if you've got initiative or something along those lines, I'm not even guaranteed to be able to attack with those. Like, this doesn't count tokens, and it doesn't count warlords or synapse units because they don't have printed costs, but you can do a whole hell of a lot of damage to the opponent. And if you shut off their Viorlaw marksmen, their rattling Deadeyes, that hurts. Maybe you've got a broadside, and you can do an area effect attack so you can kill off all their low-cost garbage before it has an opportunity to attack you back. So it's kind of a goofy card. It's weird that the units are basically like they have to skip their combat turn. They don't exhaust. They just don't attack.
Yeah, it's like the Prince's Might, same thing. Yeah. They just stand there.
Yeah, so it's a weird card, but Earthcast Technician can fetch it. I think this is probably best if you're playing against maybe a faction like Tau, where they've got a Viorlaw marksman with an ion rifle. Like, it doesn't boost its printed cost. It's just a cheap unit with an attachment, so it's still affected by this. So this is kind of a weird card, but 4 hit points makes it extremely difficult to kill. So I'm sure this is probably going to end up seeing a fair bit of pretty decent use until our meta really adjusts toward those higher cost curves.
Mm-hmm. All right, next up we've got the 2-cost attachment. 1 shield, it is common, missile pod. It is a hard point. And you attach this thing to a pilot or vehicle unit you control. Deploy action. Sacrifice this attachment to deal 3 damage to a target enemy army unit in your opponent's HQ, or destroy a target support card. So, we talked about this at length last time in that proxy game that I did with Brian. I do believe he got one of these out. And it's a cool card. I like the versatility of it. I like that it's free in Shadow Sun. I like that it's discounted with Ambush Platform. I just like the versatility of it. Pretty cool.
Yep. Options, pretty good. Interesting that you can recur it with Shadow Sun, but then it's a deploy action, so it allows your opponent some opportunity to respond to it, like they can try to pick off that unit during combat. But
sure. I will say there are mini games where for the first couple planets, you're not trading punches with warlords. So, go ahead and if you send, if they're not fighting for the first planet and you are going to go there, or if you're going to go, command winning somewhere else, stick this on your, whatever, recon drone well, I guess not a recon drone, but a piloter vehicle you got out there, your Vasha Trailblazer, and then you're setting yourself up for the next deploy turn.
Yeah. I like it to do that. I like it to blow up a support or obviously damage a unit in HQ. What's kind of cool is even though it's not like dirt cheap, it's more versatile than is Squig Bombing. Even though that's, where you couldn't possibly have the same ally and there's no way they could be in the same deck or whatever. But, it's like one action to play it, one action to sacrifice it. So it just seems like it's a lot of value, and certainly there's no lack of pilots and vehicles that you can affix it to. So seems like a pretty cool card. There are plenty of supports that I would like to be able to point and click destroy. And 3 damage to an army unit is also pretty good. Granted, it's going to be showing up someplace only to be exhausted, but, 3 damage is definitely nothing to scoff at, so pretty superb little card.
All right, so moving on to the Necrons, we've got the 3-cost army unit Hunting Acanthrites. Bit of a tongue twister here, but it is a no-command 1/3 drone trait. Each unit with printed cost 2 or lower at this planet gets -1 HP. 3 cost is a little expensive for a no command 1/3. However, this is a prime target for Gauss Flare. If you have more than one copy of this out, that affects stacks.
Yep.
And that can be pretty brutal. I can see deploying this at a planet, and for your first deploy move, and then your next deploy move is Extermination.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, there's not a lot of 2-cost units that have 4 HP, but there's a few, and a few popular ones like Warlock Destructor or any 2-cost army unit potentially in Shadow Sun with, say, Stealth Cadre on them or something.
Or like Grav Inhibitor Drone.
Grav Inhibitor Drone. Yeah, and there's a few Orc ones as well, I think. So, it's not a slam dunk great card, but the fact that it can stack, and I almost kind of look at this like the way I would Kugas Nurgling. You don't sprinkle them out early game. You try to save 1 or 2 copies for that 4th or 5th turn, and again, great target for Gauss Flare.
Yes, I do not say this often, but, just because I don't like to deal in hypotheticals, I like to deal in reality, but I think this card would have been so strong if it had a command icon.
Yeah.
Because if your opponent has, 3 Rogue Traders and 3 Void Pirates at a planet, you play this there and immediately they all die. There's no opportunity to shield or anything like that. Rattling Deadeyes are killed. What I think is really cool about this thing is, it's going to be kind of a low priority target in combat a lot of the time. If it dies, then the enemy units and your units, because it affects you too, they immediately gain that HP back. But the instant that it is part of your warlord train and it shows up at a planet, maybe it does all of its damage immediately, and that's prior to resolving command struggles.
Correct.
So
yep, I like that too.
Yeah, it seems like it's a subtle unit, and you're paying a lot for not the beefiest thing in the world, but the amount of effect that you can get out of this is pretty absurd. And if you've got 2 or, God forbid, 3 copies, it's almost like a GG card.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, moving on here, we've got the Necron Deep Strike event. This is called Defensive Protocols. It has a nil deploy cost, 1 shield, tactic, deep strike cost of 2, so net deep strike cost of 3. Reaction: after you deep strike this event, until the end of this battle's first combat round, reduce all damage taken by Necron units you control to 1. This seems pretty strong to me. I mean, 3 cost is kind of a lot, but to say, for this entire round, everything you hit me with is going down to 1. That's huge.
Yeah, it seems pretty strong. A friend of mine the other day was playing this game in which someone was running Possessed against him, and it swung for like 9. With defensive protocols, that would be decreased to 1. And in this game that my friend played, he killed this Possessed, and the adversary played 3 copies of Made to Fight back to back to back. And if this is...
Wait. Oh.
Did you finally get the joke, Sam?
Sorry. Yeah, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was about you. Anyways, point being, it's any amount of damage taken by Necron units. So whether it's through card effects or whether it's through attacks, this is dropping it all down to 1, not by 1, but to 1. I cannot agree enough that it is just alarmingly expensive, but it might give Illuminor Xeris enough time to, start to reach some sort of critical mass with his healing. Like, if he's got his signature attachment, maybe you're not able to one-hit kill his expensive units. He can pull damage off of them. Maybe it allows you a nice window of opportunity to sacrifice your hunting Acanthrites through Master Program to heal a unit and then ready it, and then it can attack again. So, this is an interesting card. Something tells me that it's probably not going to be played that often, but if you can decreasing 2-1 in my mind means all of my units are going to live, and it gives me like a free round of attacks against all of yours.
Yep, pretty good card. I mean, this is not something you play early game, but it's a mid to late game kind of finisher almost. So.
Oh, for sure. And I guess it is cheaper than Extermination. I mean, it's a very different card, but it is... Maybe they're competing for the same card slot, in a sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. They're kind of the big game finisher card. So
Sure. And this is a better Onrakir and Xeris card than Nahumek, because it doesn't protect your non-Necrons. But... it's an interesting card, and I'll just be really curious to see what else Necrons get, deep strike-wise.
Yep, it'll be cool to see. All right, let's move on to Nids here. You're the Hive Tyrant. Take us away.
Oh, you. Well, I guess we've got 2 different cards. Tyranids normally don't get the best cards, Sam, so let's pray to the ruinous powers for a moment that this pack is different.
Let's pray to the Hive Queen.
Right. Let us pray to the Norn Queen, which we share a collective hive mind with, so let's just worship ourselves for a moment. Very satanic. Anyways, Caustic Tyrannofex is a 5-cost elite army unit. It's creature, it's Leviathan, 3 command icons, 4/4, and reaction. After you win a command struggle at this planet, until the end of the round, this unit gains Hive Mind specialization. Each Termagant token you control at this planet gains Armorbane. So it's a 5-cost 4/4. If you win command, granted it's got 3 command icons, then all your Termagant tokens also at that planet, they cannot be shielded against.
This is interesting. Typically when you see these 5-cost or more elite cards that have these below vanilla attack and HP values, like I've heard you say that expression, and I've used it too. I wish the real estate was invested elsewhere instead of all these command hammers. But in this case, you do want the command. You want to guarantee your command win. It looks good in like a Swarmlord deck, I think. I don't know if it has any room in Omega or on Old One Eye. I like that it's... I mean, Armorbane's strong, and I've been playing one of the other decks. I didn't mention this earlier, but I have been fooling around with this Hive Mind heavy Swarmlord AoE deck where I've got the I don't remember the name of the unit. I just call it the Meatball Launcher.
Biovore Spore Launcher.
Yeah, Biovore Meatball Launcher, and I like that this thing gains the Hive Mind, and once it has it, you can move it with Mycetic Spore Sacs.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, you can kind of play this out wherever you want, where you know your opponent cannot invest the cards to win the command because he needs to invest in the battle, and then you can move this thing over. It's kind of wombo combo-y, but
yeah,
I've put that Mycetic Spores to work in those games. The deck isn't doing great. I think I've maybe won 1 out of 3 games with it, but it's been very fun. It's an uphill battle, but it's very fun to play. I mean, and so it's kind of expensive, but if you could have the Meatball Launcher and this guy out on the board somewhere, you just win command with this guy, move him over, and now you have a bunch of AoE 1 Armorbane units, and typically these things are beefed up by, Swarm Guards and Hive Guards and things like that. So I don't love this card, but in Swarmlord, I can see some definite use for it.
Yeah, I could see it being okay. I'm not blown away by it because, like, first of all, let's say you've got your Tyrannifex at Planet 1 and you want to win command there, but if you want to get your maximum value for your Termagant tokens, you're sending the Swarmlord to, say, Planet number 2, so you can create tokens at adjacent planets. But then if your opponent sends their warlord to 1, then you're not winning command there, and so it seems like there's a little bit of trickiness and finickiness to pulling this off. When this card was unveiled, a lot of people on the Hive Tyrant Facebook page were saying like, oh, this is great, just play Termagant Spikers and Strangler Brood, and then you've got a bunch of ranged 2 attack value Armorbane Termagant tokens, but then it's like, well, okay, if you invest 9 resources in 3 cards, then yeah, it's cool to have some like Armorbane 2 attack ranged units, but maybe you don't even have a huge number of Termagant tokens. Like, people generally don't run anything like the Gravid Turvagon. I mean, this does work great with like Termagant hordes. So I feel like sometimes this is going to work out really well, and then sometimes it's just not. I don't think that the Swarmlord runs a large number of elites, so you're maybe unlikely to be using Backlash, or maybe you've only got a couple copies, and it's totally possible that your opponent could Archon's Terror this unit, or Klavex Warleader it, or just outcommand it, or kill it early. So it seems like there's maybe some potential here, but oh man, it just seems like this is a really love or hate card, and it might be a little too messy for me to like really play.
Yeah, it's tricky and it's finicky, but it could be. I think like a lot of these Hive Mind things, it's probably not great competitively, but I can see the fun in it.
Yeah, for sure. But we do have one last card in Unforgiven to cover. It's a card that we saw previously unveiled in a card fan that I think revealed Epistolary Vezuel, but it is the Loamy Brood Hive. It's a 1-cost support. Its location trait, reaction. After you deploy an elite unit, exhaust this support to put 2 Termagant tokens into play at the same planet as that unit. So this has actually got some natural synergy with the Caustic Tyrannofex. You can play it, you can generate a couple possibly Armorbane Termagant tokens for yourself. But, Sam, in your Meatball Launcher deck, do you think this has a place?
Yeah, in the Meatball Launcher deck, it absolutely has a place. I guess if you're running, what's the Burrowing Trigon?
Yes.
Is that him?
Yeah.
I still haven't ever got that thing to really work, but I mean, you could potentially play one and then do this and then play like another one for even cheaper and then potentially play the third one for almost nothing, but that's probably not going to happen. So let's go back to reality here. I do actually like it for the meatball launcher deck, but you know, I see some synergy here. I mean, let's kind of rewind. Let's talk about these two cards in concert, because you want to have as many Termagants, like you said, so you send Swarmlord to the next planet, and now you're not winning command because they're sending their Warlord there. No matter how many hammers you have, their Warlord trumps that. But maybe you don't need to send Swarmy there now because you can reach the kind of critical mass buildup of
Right.
tokens that you needed, through this card. So, and if you're running, a Hive Mind deck, then chances are good you've got other cards at the planet that are going to be augmenting those tokens and making them better than 1/1s. So I think it's a pretty cool little card.
I definitely think it could be. I was saying currently Swarmlord doesn't run a lot of elites, but this definitely lends a lot of practicality to that playstyle, and this even works with some of our other Tyranid warlords, like Subject Omega. Doesn't normally run a lot of Termagant tokens, but Yumgarl Genestealer, you could ambush that into play. Maybe it's a 6/4 or a 4/4 or a 6/6, depending on whether warlords or synapse units are present, but then you're also getting a couple of Termagant tokens alongside it. But really it just all kind of goes to it's a very simple, repeatable way of getting those tokens out. And like if you were considering running a card like Spawn Termagants before just to get tokens, this allows you to have your elites out. It's like having your cake and eating it too. You get your elites and you get your tokens. And multiple copies of this support can all process or react to the same elite entering play. It just seems like there's a lot to like about this card, and I'm sure it probably is going to be seeing play.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Really, the only other thing I can think of to say about this one, and we've touched on it before, is Gravid Turvagon is probably one of the least chosen Synapse units, and this is even less reason to run a Synapse that, sure, it's got a command icon, but it doesn't have any attack value, and it's putting 1 or 2 Termagant tokens into play per round at best. So, cool card, and really, really curious to see what it's going to take for the Swarmlord or any Tyranid to be considered Tier 1. But, Sam, by now we've run through our entire Death World War Pack here, so what are your overall impressions of Pack 2?
I think it's a pretty cool pack. I'm really excited for Vezuel. I'm really looking forward to playing him. Hopefully tomorrow night I'll be able to pick up the pack at the store and get him out on the table. I think Astra Militarum got some really good cards. Orks, we'll see. I'm sure people are tired of hearing that.
But I'm not optimistic about those cards. Let's make it clear.
No, yeah. Let's go back to the show notes. Good command, shitty card. Chaos got some interesting cards. Nothing like game breaking, but some interesting stuff. I think 1,000 cuts is good if you want to increase your Urian win rate. Pick up this pack. I like both the Eldar cards. I like both the Tau cards. I really like both the Necron cards, and I definitely like Lomi Bruhai. So there's nothing in here other than Vezuel that screams like slam dunk. Have to have it. Except for maybe that Urian card, but and maybe those Necron cards. Those are pretty cool. But I think this is a solid pack, and I think we're just seeing a little more of the kind of building on existing themes. I like that we're going to get some stuff here that helps Urian, that potentially can help Xeris when he comes along next. But let's face it, Space Marines are the most popular faction, and this is a killer Space Marine signature squad. So. Overall, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, and I think I'll just kind of sum up my thoughts by saying ditto. I cannot really agree more. Visual seems great. AM cards seem great. Chaos is fine. Orc cards kind of suck. The Dark Eldar card, it's like one kind of sucks. The other one's pretty good. Eldar, not blown away. Tau is fine. Necron is fine. Tyranids also fine. So I think it's totally acceptable pack, but Vezuel just seems beyond awesome. So I'm really excited to get a chance to post up some more games with him. But I suppose, Sam, this is kind of an abbreviated episode for us after all.
Yeah, I think we're going to get it in under 2 hours, so take that, all you people that don't like our long episodes.
Yes. So I guess as a way of just kind of wrapping things up, Sam, we recently saw the conclusion of the Black Crusade. 187 entered, but it's always fun to set a new record, so I cannot encourage listeners enough to enlist in the upcoming Black Crusade. But when exactly does registration begin?
August 7th. So mark that down on your calendars. That is Sunday, August 7th. And if I do things how I've normally done them, I might actually get it up a day early on Saturday. So we're about a month away. Probably by the time you listen to this, a little less than a month away. So yes, I would, obviously, the more the merrier. I want to grow this game. I want more people to play the game. And, if we get over 200, I'll include that, I'll expand that top cut to 64. So, the more the merrier. Maybe you got a better shot at making the cut. One thing here I will spoil now on the Tyrantcast is, and I'm going to put up a thread here, maybe in a week or so on Card Game DB, but I'm looking to see how many, Asian, Mid or Eastern Asian / Australian / New Zealand, maybe / Hawaiian players there are out there. I would love to make a third division. I know that those Australian and Chinese players. I don't know if we had anyone from Japan, but I know we have a couple Chinese players. I know we have a few Australians and New Zealanders. It's always tricky for those guys to get their games in. As far as the time zone, they're kind of out in no man's land. They're too far ahead of Europe, and they're too far, I guess, either behind or way ahead of us. And it'd be great if we got enough response to break it into 3 divisions. So if you're listening to this and you're somewhere over there, please tell your friends, and let's grow the game, and let's make it easier for you guys to get your games in. So.
Yeah. Well, and my understanding is it's just a 1 game a week on Octagon commitment for 6
That's
rounds
correct.
of Swiss.
That's right. You got it. 6 weeks long, 1 game a week. And obviously, if you make the top cut, you're going to be playing longer. But we had a great turnout. So thank you to all you guys that signed up. Really appreciate it. I love building this game. And thanks to you, Mitch, for all your work you did for me and with me. And also, thanks to Dan and Paul, who did a lot of behind-the-scenes work. So, come on over. August 7th is sign-ups, but you can go to blackcrusadeleague.blogspot.com and check it all out.
Yeah, and I'll just say, for anybody that wants to catch up on what happened during the spring 2016 season, I've got a playlist of 19 different videos up on the channel, kind of showing my progression through that season. I've got all of my own commentated games posted that I believe for all of them I commentated while I was in the process of playing the match. I've got all the top cut. Great performances by Seth Rosen, Corvus, Davis Kingsley, Greenpeace, and D-Lord, and all the other just spectacular players out there. So if you yourself compete, there's a chance you'll be in one of the featured matches, and you'll be featured on my channel, and Sam's got all sorts of fantastic prize support that I believe is still in the works. So it's a lot of fun. I think if I can force myself to play a game once per week, all of you listeners should participate as well. So I guess I'll just end things here by saying, as always, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm the Hive Tyrant. Go figure. And if at any point anyone feels any desire whatsoever to support my ongoing endeavor to continue to cover all things Conquest LCG, support the Tyrantcast and the Hive Tyrant on Patreon. So, as always, thank you for joining Sam and I for another episode, and be sure to check back in again soon for much more Conquest LCG content to come.